All right.
Okay, so our guest today is Annie. And Annie is an event manager. She's 30, she's single, and she has two kids. Welcome, Annie. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good. I'm really glad to have you on. I've been looking forward to our interview, our session. Um, so
Me
I
too.
know originally we had the idea we were going to kind of talk about some things with your mom, some difficulties with your mom, but I understand that the last day or two have been a little bit trying. So if you want to give a little background there, then we can figure out what direction might be best to go in. So go ahead and share what's been going on for you recently.
Okay, so yesterday I had a meeting with my daughter's paternal grandparents. They have been wanting to see her for the last 2 years, almost 2.5 years. They have not been able to see her since her dad wasn't allowed access anymore to her, following an assault. Which was actually a blessing in disguise because that was happening behind closed doors for pretty much her whole childhood, and nobody would believe me. Um, so, um, yeah, so after that happened, she was brought to me and said, and told she wouldn't have to see him anymore. So that was great. Um, they've wanted to maintain a relationship, but they've not been able to accept what she's been through, what I've been through, um, what their son is like. So I don't think he's diagnosed narcissistic personality disorder, but from the research I've done, I'm pretty sure that's what he is. And I always used to, say, he's for sure a sociopath. The mind games, the control, the abuse, the just making you feel like you're completely insane. Um, and just makes that bigger and bigger. And obviously my daughter was, well, not obviously, but she was 2 when she went to live with him. My mental health wasn't great after our relationship broke down, mine and his. And I thought it would be best for that to happen. And as soon as I figured out that that he was actually being abusive to her too, I tried to get her back, and then we just ended up in court proceedings for the next 8 years. The abuse got worse and worse. Um, she would cry to me every weekend. Dad just shouts at me every day, calls me names every day, calls me ugly, calls me stupid, throws things at her in the car on the way to school. He would punch her in the leg. Just constant abuse
Hmm.
that he just managed to hide from the whole world. Um, so you know, I I I need to know that she's going to be safe when she goes to them. And how am I going to know that she's safe when she goes there if they're not even able to say, "Hey, we hear you. We know. We believe you." And I'm not getting that, and I didn't get that last night. I just got, "Well, you made mistakes too. You're just as bad as him, almost." So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, and that can't be easy seeing her go through that and not being able to protect her from that yourself as it's going on.
Exactly, which meant me trying to numb myself out during the week, not really wanting to be around. I actually I tried to kill myself a few times, but in 2012, I had a major breakdown and ended up in hospital. I was so angry that I was waking up. It's like, I don't want to be here. I can't do this. Um, and then just didn't eat for 2 months, just said F you to life, just nope, not playing. Um, and following that, I didn't see my daughter for almost a year, maybe like eight
Hmm.
months, 9 months. They just totally used that against me. She's obviously not fit, da 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 da. Um, so yeah, I forgot there was something else I was going to mention. Never mind.
It's okay.
Hmm.
So the other piece, because it was what you originally wanted to work on, and I feel like it may also be part of this pain for you, was that your mother is causing some mental health issues and some triggering, I suppose. Uh, can you give me a brief background on your mom and your upbringing and what your relationship with her is like?
Yeah, so she's undiagnosed, but definitely paranoid schizophrenic. Growing up with, just terror stories, just constantly be afraid, you're not safe. Um, she was physically and verbally abusive too. Um, what was it like growing up with her? Just terrifying. Just you never know what mood she's going to be in. You don't know what she's going to do next. She put my hand over a fire once. That's one of my like earliest memories. um and just fights with my dad constantly, fights with everyone who came into her path. She would just want to fight, not physically, but yeah,
Hmm.
verbally, and just screaming, constant screaming. So I just, when I was a teenager, I wanted to get away from her as soon as I could. Just like, you are just not right. And then I ended up with my daughter's dad.
Mm-hmm. Yep, yep.
So
As so often happens,
I
you
know.
go from one abuser to the next, and yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So that's
mm,
exactly what happened.
yeah.
Um, and then, yeah, in my 20s, I went backwards and forwards trying to help her. I kind of understood that she's not well, and maybe if she would just listen to some sense, maybe I could help her. Maybe if I get her out of, you know, I don't know, her illness or whatever. I don't know. I thought I could help her, but I ended up destroying myself in the process. Um, So our relationship is, I don't know if you would say it's better. It's less volatile now. But I just kind of leave her to it when she's going off on one and rambling about this person did this to me, this person, it's all their fault, blah, blah, blah. I either say, can you stop that because I'm not listening to that, or I'm leaving. So I just kind of nip it in the bud as soon as it comes up, and I don't see her that often. She lives down the road. She doesn't live very far, but um, if it wasn't for my daughter, I probably wouldn't see her at all. My daughter seems to also have this soft spot for her and wants to help her and keep saying, I want to see grandma, I want to see grandma, we need to be there for her, da da da. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for all of that background. I know it's not easy to share all of that, and it's a
And
lot on your plate.
still, it's a lot. Yeah, it is a lot, and it's hard to. I think I used to be better at separating it. Um, Kind of, no, that's over there, I'm over here, I'm doing my healing, I'm doing everything I can to be the best person I can be. And I don't know, recently it's just, that's not been so easy. I've actually kind of, after having my son, he's 19 months now, after I had him, I yeah, I had some real bad postnatal depression, and it was during that depression that I suddenly became conscious of a diagnosis I received in 2012, which was for borderline personality disorder, or emotionally unstable personality disorder, as they call it here. And it was just like, my mind was blown. I was just like, wow. And then I remembered when I received the diagnosis.
Uh-oh. You've frozen up.
Look, I'm
Oh,
cool.
okay. Sorry. Hold on.
Sorry.
It's okay. For some reason, you froze up for a moment there. So if we can go back to uh, when you received the diagnosis.
Yeah. I read it as, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm completely sane. I'm completely fine. There's no there's no issues. I'm, mentally stable. I was showing people my results and they were just looking at me like, okay, don't really know what to say to you, because obviously I was not saying was what the paper was showing. So I now understand that the mind does that to protect you. When you can't handle some information, it will just go into total denial, and you can't break out of that until you're ready to face whatever that truth is. And that came during the PND, and that just sent me on a whole kind of just string of courses, mental health courses, trying to understand myself, trying to understand my past and what happened and what went wrong, and how did I get to where I am right now. And I think in opening myself up like that and choosing to look at myself honestly, um, it's just left me really raw, and like I can't handle very much. It's like everything's too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I totally understand that. Yeah.
Mm,
Okay. So first of all, just as far as the diagnosis and all of that, I mean, I can't do anything to take care of, any kind of diagnosis, mental disorder, anything like that. But I can help with an individual trigger and being able to take that down. And often I find that the more individual triggers you can take down, the more the general problem tends to dissipate. So working on one thing at a time can often help affect the bigger issue overall and help it to be far less overwhelming and all consuming.
mm,
So um, there's a few different directions I think we could go with this. First, I want to ask you, what would you say has been the most triggering aspect of what's been happening for you over the last few days? What's been bothering you the most?
Definitely this whole dynamic with my daughter's grandparents. Um, yeah,
And
definitely.
is it wanting to continue to protect her? Is that the main piece of this? Is just that helplessness
Mm.
and wanting desperately to protect her and keep her safe?
Yeah, that, and also dealing with a very angry teenager that wants to see her paternal grandparents, and I'm the bad guy for not letting that happen.
Okay. Okay. And which one would you say is coming up larger for you?
I would say the fear of her being taken away from me, the fear of losing her. So I guess that wanting to protect that bond and everything we've built over the last 2 and a bit years,
Hmm.
needing that to stay secure.
Okay. Okay. So, have you had a chance to play with the click tracks at all yet on your own?
I tried several times and kept getting distracted.
So, you've listened to the instructions
Yeah.
for it and everything? Okay.
Mm,
Um, so, what I'm thinking is that we should start with dealing with the fear of what if what if all of this goes back to how it was? What if she gets taken from me? What if I can't protect her anymore?
mm,
And I think part of it too, I mean, of course, we want to protect our children, but I really feel like a big part of this for you also is that there was nobody protecting you.
mm,
When you were growing up and you were being abused and you weren't being kept safe, there was no one protecting you. And so there's this feeling of who's going to protect her.
mm,
There was nobody to protect me. I'm supposed to protect my daughter. What if I can't be there to protect her anymore and she ends up with the same kind of treatment that I had?
yeah.
So that kind of being, I feel like, the big theme that's kind of coming up. So addressing it both in the current situation and the fear of what might happen, as well as acknowledging your own history of not being kept safe and not being protected. That's what you're really afraid of for her. So it's all interwoven very deeply. So that's what I would acknowledge. So, my advice would be to use the click track while you start to worry about all the what ifs. What if she gets taken from me? What if she's with my in laws and they let her see her father and he abuses her and nobody protects her? Just like nobody protected me when my mom was doing this thing, or any other nonsense that happened to you as a kid that you weren't protected from. And so what if she has that happen to her? And so it's just kind of looping around and around and around in all of that, kind of going back and forth between those two time frames,
Mm.
and just staying with those kinds of thoughts and worries throughout the course of the click track. Does that make sense to you? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So are you up for doing a round of that here on the call today together?
Yeah.
All right. So we will be right back once we have done a round or two of the click track on this issue together with Annie. All right. We are back after round one. So Annie, what number would you say at its worst, like at the most intense level while you were doing that on a scale of 0 to 10, what would you say your intensity level was at its worst?
Um, I don't know, 9, I would say.
Okay. All right. If you think about it now, if you think about, that idea of your daughter not being safe, or that sense of not being able to protect her all the time from your in-laws, from her father, from abuse in general, what number would you say emotional intensity wise that brings up for you?
Um, 4.5 maybe, 4
Okay,
or 5.
good. All right, great. So it's kind of gone down by half.
It
Yeah.
definitely has. Yeah, I had a little kind of, I just started laughing kind of to myself, and I realized just, I don't know, something just sort of clicked that it was laughable, all this fear. It was laughable.
Mm, yeah, yeah. That's really kind of where this gets you. And it's amazing to have that in this kind of situation, even. I mean,
Hmm.
I can see that shift happen in a lot of situations where people are needlessly worrying about things that will never happen, and all of that. But when this is a lifelong theme for you and something you've been dealing with for years and years, and in your life is, kind of in the background, a continual threat, to be able to even bring that down to such a manageable level is amazing. To get it to the point where you can kind of laugh at it a little bit and go, geez, am I serious with this? Um,
Yeah.
it's amazing. I
Mm,
would probably do another round at some point, just like what you just did, to
mm,
take it all the way down,
yeah.
because the whole point is to get it down to a 1 or a 0 so that it's just not a trigger at all. And that
Mm,
way, when the situation comes up and presents itself to you, you're able to deal with it from a more calm, logical, grounded standpoint
mm,
instead of that emotional, like, freak out place. And that
mm.
way, you can do what you need to do action wise without flipping out.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was kind of praying to be able to do yesterday before the meeting. And yet, because I was in that place of fear and being triggered and all that other stuff from my childhood was obviously all there with me. I was just not able to do that. As soon as I got in the room, it was just, I was gone to my emotions. And now I just sort of realize, well, it kind of reminded me of the faith that I have in the universe, that, things do happen for a reason and we all do have a path, and you can't protect people from pain all the time. You can just do your best. And it just sort of reminded me of me a little bit, you know, of when I was well. It reminded me of when I was well. So that's a pretty awesome thing.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah. Thank
Mm,
you so much.
yeah, absolutely. Um,
Mm,
yeah, and that's, that's why I love these tools and why I'm constantly talking about them and,
mm,
trying to get this out there in the first place, because it's like a miracle. Like
mm.
all of this stuff that bothers us and pushes our buttons all the time, we can actually get over it.
Yeah.
Um, and
Mm,
not just say I'm over it or I'm not going to give my energy to this anymore, but actually feel that relief and kind of let go of that hyper focus and hypersensitivity.
mm.
So I do have some other suggestions for you that I think will help bring some relief to the overall situation too.
Okay.
Um, Definitely doing probably one or two more rounds, just like you just did, until you get the thing we just worked on down to a 1 or a 0. But also to do a round on how overwhelmed you've been feeling lately. Just
Mm,
everything that's on you. It's just like, I have to protect her from her in-laws. I have to protect her and myself from my mother. Um, Having to be the bad guy to her. Um, Having it be on you to pay the bills and, like, just everything that feels like it's on you and pushing on you and, just hovering over you, feeling like responsibility and pressure and just too much coming at you at once. You just kind of
yeah.
list all of those various things and freak out about that. Be like, how the heck am I supposed to handle this? How can I get all of this done? It's too much. And just acknowledge that with a round.
Mm, mm.
And sometimes things like that have a root in the past, and sometimes they don't. Like most things that are triggering to us, we've had similar experiences before, and that's part of why we're being so reactive in the moment. But certain other things, it's just, this is a thing that's suddenly happening to me out of the blue right now, and there's no root in the past as to why I'm being triggered by it. So if there is anything, especially from childhood, where you really felt like everything was on you and it was all too much to deal with and like everything was on your shoulders, then you can include that. If that wasn't a particular theme for you in your childhood, then just deal with this current overwhelm, just to kind of be able to relax about that. So just kind of sit with that a little bit and start with the roundabout everything happening now and everything that's on you to do and how overwhelming that is. And then if you
Mm,
notice, oh yeah, I used to feel like this as a kid a lot, then throw that in there. But if it hasn't been, or
mm,
even if you felt like that throughout your adult life or when you were a teenager,
mm,
just whenever was
mm.
similar, you can throw that in.
I find things just recur all the time. You know, it just, if I'm feeling a certain way, a certain intense way, I can almost always link it back to either teenage years or childhood or, you know, whenever. I can
Yeah.
always, there's always a pattern and I always see it. And instead of, you know, when I'm not doing too great, I'll see the pattern and be sort of self-defeating. Oh, this is never going to get better. But when I'm feeling a little bit more in control and able to do something about the pattern, then, you know, obviously then I feel empowered.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm making notes as we're talking about it. So um, talking about that round of the overwhelm, but also a round on that I'm stuck like this forever. So
Mm,
feeling trapped or stuck. So basically, just doing a round of freaking out. Like, what if this never ends? What if my life looks like this
sorry,
forever?
I just had a call, so I didn't hear what you were saying. I
Oh,
just turned it
sure.
off.
Okay.
Just repeat that, please.
Yeah, no problem. All right. So also I would probably do a round on feeling stuck like this. just that
Right.
fear of, what if my life is like this forever? What if
Yeah.
nothing ever makes me better? What if um, none of this ever changes and I keep having to deal with this for the rest of my life? Like, just kind of freaking out about that.
Mhm.
And if you have felt that way in the past, which I'm assuming you have, with even some of the things you shared with me today, I would assume that that was one of the thoughts there. Um, so acknowledging that in the same round. And
Mm.
that's really the name of the game. You said that a lot of times you can trace things back to, having felt that way before or having had a similar experience in the past. And that's really the trick of getting permanent clearance on something versus
Mm.
getting clearance on only one aspect of that trigger.
Mm.
Because, if you work on a singular event with this track, you'll feel better about that singular event. But if you acknowledge it as a whole theme in your life of all of the times that you have experienced something similar, all of the times you've been made to feel a certain way, then you clear that overall as a trigger in your life from here on out.
And that's definitely the goal, right?
Yes, it is. Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
It's certainly my goal.
God, I mean, this is hugely powerful. This is going to be hugely beneficial in my life. And I've kind of been wondering what the next step of healing is going to be for me. I was kind of thinking, I've done so much, I've done so much work. How much more work can I do? And, this is so simple. And
Hmm.
it's just, I mean, how long was that round? Like 2 minutes?
It's the track itself is 11 minutes long, but the instructional part is 2 minutes long. So the actual clearing part of the track is 9 minutes.
Did I do that for 9 minutes just then?
Yes, you did do it for 9 minutes just then.
That went by so fast.
Yeah, it does. It just flies by. It's amazing. Yeah. So yeah, to be able to do something for 9 minutes that feels more like 2 or 5 minutes and to
Mm.
feel better. And
Mm.
the even greater thing about it is that the more you use it, the faster it works. So, okay, you took something from like a 9 to a 4.5 in your very first round.
Mm.
So
Mm.
imagine, once your brain is really used to this, what you'll be capable of and how quickly.
Mm. Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's very cool. And I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, I've tried so many different things, and how can this simple thing work? It was mind blowing for me too, because I spent years doing all kinds of therapy and trying every spiritual practice I possibly could and doing energy work on stuff and even getting traditional hypnosis and reading every book I could get and just everything to try to fix myself, to try to help my clients. And it's like it was just peeling layer after layer, or you'd feel good for a little while and then the next piece would come back, or it would just take it down a notch, but it wouldn't take it out entirely. And
Mm.
it gets so frustrating. It's like, how many more layers are there to peel with this stupid thing? So
Yeah, relatable.
yeah. So to finally have a tool that actually works, where, okay, yes, if there are several emotions attached to a certain trigger, then you need to address each of those. Like if you have shame around a certain situation, anger around that same situation, um, feeling of feeling trapped in that same situation, you have to address each of those emotions separately. So that's really the only layer peeling you really have to do with something, is making sure that you address each emotional reaction separately. But there's not this feeling of, I have to do this on the same issue over and over again before it clears. It's like,
Mm.
if you get it at the root and you get that particular emotion at its root, it's
Mm.
gone. So
Mm. How many years have you been doing this?
I've been using these tools for about 5 years now.
And how did you find them?
Somebody just mentioned them to me. I kept getting intuitive information that I needed to be focusing on the subconscious mind. So I just kept trying everything I could. Like I tried EFT and hypnosis and things like that, and was
Mm.
getting some good-ish results with those. And then somebody asked me, "Have you tried PS Tech?" And I had not even heard of it. And immediately like went online and started looking it up and started playing with it a little bit myself. And within a few months, it cleared the biggest issue that had been a lifelong problem for me, in like 2 rounds. Like I did
Wow.
2 rounds on this one particular issue and it cleared it forever.
Wow.
Like it's been 5 years since it's resurfaced. So um, it's pretty astonishing, amazing.
Sorry,
Yeah.
1 second. My daughter's at the door. Really
Okay,
sorry.
that's okay.
Oh, all right. Okay. I might have to wrap up.
Okay, all right. So just work on those couple of things that I mentioned and anything else that comes up. If something's bothering you, just use the track. And if you can think of anything from your past that seems similar, use it on that. But I would love to
Okay.
meet up with you in like a week or two just to get a
Yeah.
recap on
Yeah.
what has shifted around what we worked on together today. So
Definitely. Yeah.
I'll email you and we'll set that up. And
Okay.
I look forward to catching up with you soon.
Thank you so much, April. Honestly, it's been an honor. I'm so grateful. I mean, I know you didn't have that many slots, but I'm just so glad that we could do this. Just huge thank you.
Me too. It's my pleasure. Thank you for making the time.
All right. Thanks for waiting too.
Yeah.
The hell of a day. Okay, so we'll catch up next week.
Yes, I look forward to talking to you then.
Awesome. Have a great week.
You too.